God's first creation, father, son, uncle, brother. On a journey of highs and lows, you were created in the image of God and given dominion in the earth, destined for great things and to fulfill purpose. Join us on Men on Monday as we discuss all issues related to men. We are unifying family, building you, building strong families, building strong futures. Join us on Men on Monday.
Officially, good morning and welcome to Men on Monday. It's good to have you with us on this, you better believe it, 14th day of March 2022. I'm Marissa Boyce, and with me I have Minister Sinclair Browne, Pastor Edison Bynoe, Bishop Mark, and together we are Men on Monday. Yes, it sounds strange to have a woman. Yeah, so we are Men on Monday. And today we continue our journey, our look at intimacy. Let me officially welcome all of you who are viewing with us on our YouTube channel. You can find us at Unifying Families there. And also who are viewing with us on Facebook, Unifying Family. Feel free to look for us, follow us, click that link, follow the notifications so that every time we go live, you do not miss what we are discussing today. So we are talking about intimacy and into me see. Yes, that's what it really is. So we're talking about intimacy. We had Minister Sinclair Browne, who shared a bit of the background information about understanding what really is intimacy. And we'll just recap for a bit in about 60 seconds before we start our show. And then today we'll be looking at the types of love that come with intimacy. And for some of you, that's like, what types of love? But yes, types of love that come with intimacy. So, gentlemen, how are you today? And welcome to Men on Monday.
Hey, good morning, Marissa. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. God is good.
Had a
God
good
is great.
weekend?
I had a good weekend. I had an excellent weekend. Just want to say good morning to everybody. Looking forward to the program. So God bless everyone.
Well,
Go ahead.
God bless everyone. Ditto. It's good to be here, to be found in my right mind. And all of us are, maybe not everything is perfect, but we know that God has it in hand. So good morning to everybody. And it's good to be here with you, learned persons and all those who are online with us.
Sorry, Bishop Mark, but I wanted to just poke some fun at you. But you're talking about in your right mind. You sure you ever in your right mind? Just asking.
Well, you know, in your right mind fits me. I don't know if my mind don't fit you, but that fits me. So it's in my right mind.
Good morning, blessings in the name of Jesus. I can tell you, I don't be in my right mind. I am proud of that. I tell all my clients I'm the craziest person up there, so I am Mr. Crazy. So blessings to be here. It's a pleasure. God is good. Um, Last week my back was hurting me so bad when I was doing the program, and now I'm improving bit by bit. So thank God for having the know-how and the therapists around me. Trust me, this could cost me a couple $1,000. The type of pain I was in, but thank God for His goodness. It's great, you know what I mean. So it cost me a little. So I give God the praise for that. To be quite honest, so blessings in the name of Jesus.
I love the fact that he said that he has the therapist around him, because let me tell you something, that back pain, I had that sciatic nerve pain, still comes and goes, but let me tell you something, that pain is crippling at times, very crippling. So I want to say a big shout out to you. That's at the folks at Healthy College. Good morning to Sanja, who is with us today. And I want to shout out all of you who continue to support us when you join our show and you take and you participate, you make your comments. Some of you who view silently and who say nothing, but you take away much knowledge. And talking about knowledge, we've got some knowledge for you today. We are talking about intimacy. What a topic. What a topic, because intimacy is always a very ticklish kind of topic, because people tend to say, this is what I need, this is what I want, do it this way, do it that way, give me what I need. But then we also forget about giving the other person. So it's really a process of getting to know someone. So, Minister Sinclair, we shared some interesting bits yesterday. I'm going to put up a yeah, I'm going to put up a bit of information, And while we put up this information, we're just going to recap, if we can, in about 2 minutes, just what it is. So for those of you who are joining us, good morning again. Like our live stream, share our live stream today, Men on Monday. We're talking about intimacy. So go ahead, Minister Sinclair.
Yes, please. Blessings once again, and good morning. Yes, we've over the last couple of weeks been looking at intimacy and how to help our listeners to go through this process. We went through things like green flags. We went through some things with love languages. We talked a little bit about personality types, a little bit, and all that. So we're now going into the intimacy area. We talked about being intimate, and last week we talked about 6 areas of intimacy. And this is one of the reasons that we can struggle in our intimacy, and hopefully we get it types of love. Last week we talked about emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, recreational intimacy, intellectual intimacy, spiritual intimacy, and financial intimacy. So when we look at things like that, beautiful graph. Oh, nice. Shout out to these graphics people. Like a baby stepping up. So so we have the emotional intimacy. And this is where we're creating closeness. Yeah. So a lot of them might say, okay, I want to be intimate, but let's say the financial intimacy in the marriage or relationship is struggling. Let's say she's spending a lot of money. Then all of a sudden the guy might not feel like he wants to be physically intimate because he's worried about his finances or he feels financially betrayed, or the lady, for instance, the guy might not be managing his money well, he getting paid, but there's nothing there she's seeing coming home. All of a sudden the bedroom is being affected because the financial intimacy has been shot, right? Likewise with spiritual intimacy, I believe, and what I do, it actually is the highest level of intimacy. So when we talk about repairing intimacy, that is my go-to. It's not the first thing, but it's the major healing process, the spiritual intimacy. Recreation intimacy is us doing things together. Very important of us spending those times or doing things. So it can't just be about saving that money and da da da. If you're not having going places or spending time, and you find that in our era right now, we're actually going to dinners and lunch more than anything. One time you used to go there on special occasions once a year. Once a year, the restaurant would have seen us if ever at all. But now we're going to the restaurant and we're just going because it's time to spend time. So God is good to us. As much as we say we are broke, we are spending some money at some very interesting restaurants. So we're building memories. There's intellectual intimacy, the ability to communicate with each other. Physical intimacy, which is very, very, very important. We cannot reduce that in any form or fashion, because without physical intimacy, the marriage is nothing, like seriously. And as once again we come back to talk emotional intimacy. So that's what we talked about last week. I don't know if the bishops have anything to say on that before we go into the types of love.
Oh, Minister Sinclair, I think you summarized it very, very well in terms of looking at all the different types of intimacy. But I like what you said. One of the things that you said was a lot in one of the areas of intimacy can affect the other areas. And I think that sometimes people don't understand that they might be thinking, hey, we connect in certain points of intimacy, but it is that one area or those 2 areas where there's that gap, and that gap impacts on everything. And I think it's important for us to be able to look at our relationship in a holistic way. Yeah, not just look at 1 or 2 areas. We got to be able to evaluate all the different areas and ask ourselves, how am I doing in emotional intimacy? How am I doing in physical intimacy? How am I doing in spiritual intimacy? And so we've said often that we need to have conversations with each other, but even outside the conversations, we also need to get some external evaluation. How am I doing in these different areas of intimacy, so that then I can work on improving the relationship, improving the marriage. And I think that's the goal. The goal is not that we're already perfect, but the goal is that we are looking for ways to make our relationship better. So that's why we have programs like Men on Monday. That's why we have persons like Bishop Mark and Minister Sinclair to help to provide some tools where we can objectively look at our relationship and see where we're falling short. So I can say definitely from these different programs, I have learned a lot, and it makes you think, how am I doing? How am I going? Yeah. And so if we could evaluate, we can always make improvement. Bishop.
Yeah, well, I thought that Mr. Sinclair was very extensive in his um, presentation. What as you were saying, though, Pastor Bynoe, is this that it is good for us to talk about doing evaluations and so on. But I've found that um, people find it very difficult. That's where you need a coach or you need a counselor. That nothing. You want divorce, but you need help to do a lot of things that we are talking about because sometimes you find that because couples are not communicating properly or are not willing to share their innermost feelings or to discuss the baggage that they might still have in the midst of the marriage. You have people with self-esteem issues for ages. And so everything that is done is based on whether or not it makes them feel bad or whether the person is rejecting them or so on. So I agree with you that we have to make sure that discussion happens. But if people are not communicating in the first place, it is going to be very difficult to do this evaluation. That's why I always recommend that whenever you have a challenge that you find that you either get discouraged trying to make it work or whatever, that you seek to get professional help. And people tend to think, especially men, that there's something wrong with that. But it's important because if you're going to get all these, the emotional intimacy together and the physical intimacy and so on, it is important that you discuss, you look and see, as you were saying, what is missing, what is not strong, and how can we strengthen it. And so I have to sit down and discuss these issues. For whatever reason, people feel uncomfortable, people feel inadequate, and so on. So it's important that as you get this information, you utilize it by looking for yourself. Do we have this? Is this something that I'm missing in my relationship? And have discussions. If you find it difficult to do those discussions among yourself, then it's important that you seek professional help. That's why when I counsel people, I always say, come back 3 months after the marriage or whatever to do post counseling, because we talk about things sitting on chairs together and going through exercises. But when you get in that house, living with that person, seeing that person every day is different than dropping them off as a boyfriend or girlfriend. So, it's always important to keep close to maybe your counselor. And when these issues come up, be not afraid to bring them to the fore and to get help if necessary.
One of the interesting things that, as Sinclair shared, is the fact that all are interconnected. There's interconnectivity about the intimacy. And interestingly enough, Sinclair said that, one area, financial, especially for men, and because this is a men's show, when they're, and I'm speaking as a lady, from what I've seen, whenever there is a challenge financially, men tend to feel it and bear and understand that burden a little more. And I think that's because they recognize that they are the providers, they are the protectors of the home. So when that area is somewhat a deficit, it can affect other things. Not only that, but I think we need to understand that there is interconnectivity. As we shared with our image this morning, it is to understand that the physical intimacy can be affected by the intellectual intimacy. The spiritual intimacy can affect the emotional intimacy. Financial problems will for sure affect the recreational intimacy, because the one is not separate from the other. So it's to understand that. And we did address last week that you will not always have all. It's important to know you will not always have all. But I want to start on this interesting bit. Since you're not going to always have all, how do you know what is most important for you before we get to understanding the types of love that comes from intimacy? So how do you know what's important for you, that level of intimacy? Because we did look also at the love languages. But Minister Sinclair, how do I know that recreational intimacy, spending that time doing something fun with my partner, is important to me, and how can I communicate that to my partner?
Well, I guess as we always say, and as Bishop Mark is spent a lot of time speaking on this, about us being honest about what it is that we want in a relationship. I don't think that many people are honest with themselves. We think we're honest, but as I say, it's like You know, when a liar tells a lie, they're being truthful, and sometimes you don't even know you're lying. Like honestly, that's one of the reasons you need a therapist. So you need a person that is there to see. A person can be saying something and be honestly think that they're being honest with themselves, but a good therapist is able to say, okay, and ask the right questions so that they can actually reveal and be there with themselves and know learn about themselves. Yeah. So I had many times people coming and say, "Oh, I'm an introvert, me, I'm an extrovert," and I'm like, "No, you're not." And then, but no, I'm telling you, I'm an introvert. There are many times where you might be the quietest person in your family, so the family is saying, "Oh, you're a very quiet person," but compared to the rest of the world, you're a very loud person. So you would have raised in your family thinking, "Oh, I'm a quiet person, I'm a quiet person." But out here, you crazy, you know what I mean? You have this big personality. So by the time you go in a relationship, you would answer any question that about yourself because you honestly think that you're quiet or you're reserved. And you're not. And the therapist would know how to say, "No, Mr. Browne, you're not an introvert." Right? And I'm now learning about myself for the first time in that area. So when it comes to intimacy, and there are some people, honestly, that have all six of these. I mean, if you have a relationship, have all six of these, you're killing it. So that is the difference. Some people can have all of these. I've met couples that you talk about all these spectrums, and their marriage, they're killing it. But like seriously. And the thing about it, what I love is that these type of people, although they're killing in their relationship, they still come for counseling. They're the ones that are not waiting for a problem. They're the ones that are waiting for a problem saying, "Yeah, bro, I come for my yearly checkup or I come for my 3 month checkup. Yeah, tell me what we got here." Da, 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 da. There are people saying, "Why come if there's nothing to fix?" And then the same way look at a car. You take your car to get service, then there's some of it the car breakdown, then it get fixed. And then recognize no the carburetor out, the transmission out, when it could have been easily fixed with $200 service. Yeah. So there are many things that are here, but what we said last week is sometimes a person may not be able to give you this, right? The person might not be able to physically match you in the bedroom. The libido might be different. You understand? A person want to go twice a day. That person is once a week. So therefore, the discussion need to be had. So the thing that to understand what is important to me is having that relation with myself. And that is one of the things I always say to people, you first have to learn about being yourself, being single. We don't know ourselves, and then I go into the relationship and want a person love me for me when I don't love myself because I don't know myself.
But that's interesting because I'm thinking, do I need to honestly go to a counselor to know that I like to spend time with my spouse, um that I recognize that he values finances more than I do. I need to know that I need to come to a counselor to know that. I don't know that I need to, that for me, because for me, I know that my love language is quality time. And I hear you always talk about acts of service, but I know for me, I feel more fulfilled when I spend time with a person. So I really do, does a person really need to come to a counselor to discover that?
Well, I mean, let me jump in here. Yeah, about you discovering it, you might know it. I think what St. Clair is saying is that you might know what you want. The person might not be capable of giving you the whole 100% that you want, and therefore
That is
you
good.
have to take. You now have to take a position where you have to be taught or be told that you have to understand that if the person is not like you, so that the whole concept that you can know what you want. But the whole thing for coming together to consider is getting you now to realize that in life you might not be able to get all that you want, and where you are causing problems because you can't get what you want. It probably means that you might have to be trained or coached on how to ease back on some of those things. They always say, and I said this, I think I mentioned before, Ben, my wife said to the marriage ministry meeting tonight, my husband seemed to be kind of a perfectionist. He want 100%, but I want to be able to give 90%. And that she has my whole life. Because here it was like fighting for the 10% that she might not be able to provide and losing out on 90. And in any exam, 90% is a grade A. So my thing is we sometimes spend so much time, oh, he didn't give me a flowers, so therefore he doesn't love me. He forgot my birthday, so oh God, this is a colossal thing. Somebody got dead. So that's really coaching, and then the counseling comes in where people say, well, okay, Marissa, yes, we understand you have all these needs, but have you asked your spouse or your partner anything about his? Or is it always every single day you? So then sometimes because you so much want to get what you want, you're not hearing what the other person needs. And I always say here in this program, if each person get up thinking about giving to the other person, we will have less stress and maybe less work. Sinclair.
Interestingly, we talk about that, but I asked that question because sometimes, we see only us and we tend to not also see the other partner. And I think it's important for us to understand that the intimacy level can't only be on for one person. The intimacy level has to be both people trying to meet each other. And it comes with conversation. Remember, you said that, Bishop Mark, last week. Communication is essential. You need to have that communication to say, I want my back rubbed. The minister Sinclair probably would have needed his back rubbed, if he communicated that. Is then now if his wife is able to meet that. And then to understand if she can't meet it, it does not mean that she does not love him. Go ahead, Pastor Bynoe.
Oh, I was going back to what Minister Sinclair would have said in the sense of the importance of counseling. I appreciate what Bishop Mark would have said that well, I can't even remember what you said, Bishop Mark. That might be, well, I don't want to say that as a senior moment because we will not say that about our seniors. They're sharp, but the thing about counseling, many times we think we know ourselves and we think that we know what we want. And that's part of the problem because the husband might be saying there are assumptions that are made. Yeah. And the husband might be saying, I want this, but my wife gives me that. Yeah. And the wife might be saying, I want this, but my husband gives me that. So sometimes we think we know what we want. And then it is only by using some kind of analysis that then we realize that might not really be what we want because we've been programmed to repeat things that we have heard. Yeah. Without always looking at them critically or analytically, without ever evaluating them objectively. So we think we know what we want. And that's why people end up in conflict because they assume that they know what they want and they assume that they know what the other person wants. And sometimes there can be closeness in terms of you want this particular thing, like for example, words of affirmation. Yeah, words of affirmation and gifts. And it could be that the two are very, very close together. And therefore it is just being able to streamline what it is that you want. But I find in relationships, we make a lot of assumptions. So we have to find a way to evaluate the relationship. And I think even in terms of asking certain questions of ourselves, but we have to understand what are some of the questions that we can begin to ask ourselves. So I started to think about how we can self-evaluate. Yeah. So take for example, asking yourself a question or looking, do we hug, kiss, and express other forms of physical intimacy? And how often? Do we do it daily? Do we do it weekly? Do we do it monthly? Do we not do it at all? So you're kind of preparing a little checklist in terms of things like spiritual intimacy. Do we attend the same church? Do we share the same theological beliefs? Do we have devotions together? Not at all. Sometimes, regularly. Do we pray for each other? Do we pray together? Are we equally involved in church? Do we both have personal devotions? Are we at the same level of spiritual maturity? So we need to have a way of fleshing out these different areas and asking ourselves different questions. Take the different types of intimacy, break them down, look at the different areas, ask different questions about the areas of ourselves, of each other, to get to a certain level of self-understanding. And then when we talk about counseling is to help us to look more at certain things, because many times we're limited by our background, we're limited by our experience, we're limited by how we're socialized, and we don't even recognize the areas of limitation. And it's only when we go into a objective environment that we actually get to see a little better. So even Minister Sinclair mentioned sometimes people will take information from the program and they will run with it. In fact, they might even beat the husband over the head with it or beat the wife over the head with it. But you have to evaluate your specific situation because your situation is going to be different from another couple. So even though there's similarities, there's something that is different about your relationship. And when the spotlight is put on your relationship alone, then you are able to properly apply the different truths and principles that we're sharing.
Wow. Real nuggets being shared this morning on Men on Monday. We are talking about intimacy, and we started off with just recapping, but as I guess maybe delving into more understanding. For those of you now joining us, understanding this, it is all about understanding the different areas of intimacy. There is emotional intimacy. This is oftentimes people develop emotional intimacy, emotional connections with others, and they're not even aware that they have done it. Physical intimacy, we know what that is. Recreational intimacy, as Sinclair says, spending time. Intellectual intimacy, being able to have discussions, stimulating discussions about important issues in your marriage. Spiritual intimacy, the ability to be able to spend time and together, pray together, and look at your beliefs and grow there. And financial intimacy, money. That's what it really is. Money, the management, understanding how you view money. And it's Pastor Bynoe trying to bring me
I
in
had
here.
to raise my hand. I had to raise my hand, like raise my hand, because you made a statement there that I don't think you realize what you said. You said we know what that is, and that's part of the problem. We know what it is, so we assume that we know what physical intimacy is, and we do that for all the other types of intimacy. Yeah. So once we have that assumption, I know you didn't mean anything by it, but
But you understand.
sometimes we assume that we know. Yeah. But it's important to really evaluate, do we really understand what physical intimacy is? Because for some people, physical intimacy is only sex. Yeah. And that's it. So they don't understand non-sexual touch. And there are a lot of women that complain about that the husband don't understand. Anytime she touches him, he won't run her to the bedroom. So again, some people don't understand the different types of intimacy.
Okay. Well, physical meant touch. That's what I meant. Touch, whatever that touch might be. It's the connection from one person to another physically. Whether it's a touch on the shoulder, whether it's a hug, whether it's in the bedroom. Physical intimacy. Let me just clear that up there. All right.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and we are going to be talking this morning about the types of love that come with intimacy. And what are we talking about? You're probably going to be saying, wow, what really is it? So just to remind you that Bishop Edison Bynoe has his book out, his latest book, and it's called 8 Success Factors for a Healthy Life. Please make sure you get it today on Amazon. Also, Bishop Mark Harewood letting you guys know that he has his mathematics and CXC lessons now going on. So please be aware of that. Take note of this number so that you can make that call. And of course, you heard Minister Sinclair Browne talk about the fact that he is now on his way to restoration with his back, all because of the folks over at Healthy. All right, so good morning to the folks over at Healthy Cottage. All right, so here's what. This morning, we continue looking at intimacy. Good morning to all of you who are with us, who are joining with us, just to show you again, we're starting from this point. I want to make sure we're on this level. We're starting from this point. So then now, Minister Sinclair Browne, we are going to the next level. What is that about the types of love that comes with intimacy? This is where the stir up comes because I was reviewing this. Go ahead, Minister Claire.
And there's always a stir up, Miss Marissa. There's always a stir up.
Mhm.
Bishop Mark always said, marriage is hard work. And I think that that is the biggest issue. We have we've allowed the Disney movies and the movies and all those things and the music videos and all those things to make us think that this one kiss is going to transform and this connection and all that. But marriage is literally work. And just stepping back to move forward, the mere fact of one evaluating your relationship of intimacy and understanding some things are deficits and some things we have to work on. It is a going variable, and once again, this is where you need to know who you're getting married to. First, who you are and who you're getting married to, because you can't expect that you're married to this person and then because you have expectations and they're not being met, and the person was never that person in the first place. That person may not be a bit improved, but there's something that don't have it, and that is where we have a lot of challenges. So it's definitely hard work. So now we're looking at the types of love. Yeah, and this is from psychologist Robert Sternberg. He created this in 1985, the triangular theory of love. And I found it quite interesting because we could talk about love. Remember, we talked about agape and storge and phileo and all those type of things from the Hebrew. But I found that this theory actually makes lots of sense on the tools that I use to one evaluate a relationship and then to see where we're missing and what type of relationship it is. So there are three areas that the theory, he normally uses triangle. So there are three components within love. There's intimacy, there's passion, and then there's commitment. Three areas. So we have intimacy, passion, and commitment. Then there's a combination of those. Yeah. So we have for intimacy a short definition of intimacy: feelings of warmth, support, sharing. We shared a lot about intimacy and that variable. So we have that person that we can communicate with and like share our intimate space. Be vulnerable and exposed. That's where intimacy comes from. And then we have passion. There's physical arousal and desire. So we have the person physically attracted to the person that we talk about sex, and all the different variables that come into that area. And then we have commitment, where we talk about a person making a choice, especially very agape-esque in this area. So we are talking about choosing this person. Yeah. And so let's say you have, and we can bring the next one, Marissa. I'm not sure we have ready. Yeah, next one. I think that would give us a good thing to look at while we talk about this. So we talk about if all three of these are missing, the idea is to have all three. But let's say there's no intimacy, there's no passion, there's no commitment. This is the area where we have a relation with people, be at work, we don't hate them, but we're not sharing any intimate with them, we don't have a passion and commitment. So we like this person. It's more of a liking, a very soft friendship, if you want to call it that at all. Person you're cordial with. That is what non-love looks like. So we like them, but we're not necessarily in anything. So you can then have intimacy, which can be very, very high. A person that I can share is like a best friend type of thing. So I can we talk to them about a lot of stuff, but the thing about it is I don't have a passion, don't have a thing to be physical with them, nor I've not made a commitment. So there's more of a friendship area. And this is where danger can kick in because some of these can actually stimulate another. Yeah, but you're just saying where you're at because you can have a person who you're intimate with, we could share with them, and as a result, no, you could actually kick in passion. Yeah, that's where these things because it starts to move around a little bit. But just to stay in the boxes, you can be infatuated with a person where there's a lot of sexual, passionate, sexual energy that you're connected together, but we don't share anything, we don't talk about stuff, and there's no commitment. So you find that a lot of movies and stuff share a lot of this idea that passion and this person they are working together and they meet each other in the room and da turn off their clothes. And we have an idea that our passion looks like. I mean what but that's just infatuation, it's very empty. So they have empty love, which a lot of marriages find themselves in, where the intimacy is low, the passion is low, but they're not talking, they're like two ships, in the dock. Then the passion, they're not being physical, but they have a commitment. They're Christians, they're saved, they don't want to get, they try hard not to get divorced, they love the Lord, speaking in tongues, but there's an empty, very empty marriage. There's nothing there besides the commitment. Then let's say you have a high in romance, high in intimacy, high in passion. There's what romantic love looks like. Now I tell you all the time, romance necessarily love, but you have a very romantic relationship, romantic marriage where you share with this person. We have a lot of sex. However, commitment to each other is very low. So it's very romantic-esque, but we talk about a lot of things being committed to is low. So that is more of a romantic relationship than anything else. We have the compassionate, which is intimacy to share with this person. Companionate is where we can have high intimacy and high commitment, but no sex. We're not touching each other. So very companion-like in the relationship, right? With the two brothers and two sisters, we could talk a lot, we can share a lot. We have a commitment. We're not going anywhere, but there's no physical touch. There's no desire for each other anymore. Then there's the fatuous love where there is high passion, high sex, high commitment, but we don't talk. And that exists too. Yes, in our Christian relationships. That exists where people are actually not sharing about the intimate details. They're not talking about who they are, or somebody struggle. And that is very, very, they don't have that. They don't know what's going on with each other, what's going on with your wife. I know she's good, but they don't know about the person, or because they're not sharing that intimate information. And then we want the consummate. This is the ideal we would like, which is high intimacy, high passion, and high commitment. However, this is very hard to maintain. It's good to have all three, but it's hard to maintain because as we go along, sometimes the passion might get low. We say, oh, shoot, babes, we're not connecting with each other. Let's start to have some more sex. We're like, shoot, last time we had sex was once a month. So we got to catch up, you know what I mean? So we got to look at that or recognize, oh, shoot, we are not sharing with each other. There's stuff going on with you, and I recognize me and talking. So you don't have to catch up in that area. So the good thing with this tool is that you actually have just an intimate variable. You can actually look at this and then say what type of relation I have, what I need to put in place, and likewise, if any deficits are in place, what I need to build to have an ideal, very strong and healthy love relationship.
Let me just say, understanding that will cause people to review their relationships. I think
and so you should. And so you should. You have a tool now to actually see what type of what relationship you have.
That's why I'm saying the stirrup has come, because there's some people who would say, when we look at this, but I don't have this and I don't have this, or we do this and we do this. I think there's nothing wrong with our relationship. But then you realize if you look at it, there is a deficit. The passion in one area is missing. And some people say, well, we're fine. We've been living like this and we're fine. Then the others who think, like you just said, if the physical intimacy is lacking, they're saying, geez, we need to up this game. Or someone would say, you see, we need to step it back. You gone too far left, sir. You gone too far left, ma'am. So that kind of thing. But I think the revelation of what we just saw and the way that you explained it has caused people, especially those who are in committed relationships, to review and say, look at this relationship. Am I in a non-love, a liking, an infatuation? Is it an empty relationship? Are we empty, or are we just romantic? Looking at those would help persons to say, let me examine my marriage. We need to improve our intimacy level. Bishop Mark, I know you want to say something. I saw you there.
My face look left. I want to talk. Okay, gonna watch that look. It is very interesting what was presented there. But one of the things that was crossing my mind as we discussed all the time, as you said, Marissa, about people looking and assessing and saying, well, look, maybe we got passion and a commitment. But you know that there are people, and I think we got to drop this in the middle of that, who might not have one or three of these things. I mean, the consummate love is where you got all three together. You got your intimacy, your passion, and your commitment. But there are people who are satisfied where they are, and I think that's where the problem comes, because a guy might be one of these fellas who want to have sex every day. His wife there are other things that are not happening that is causing her maybe not to get half of the week in where sex is concerned. But you find after a period of time, people become very comfortable So why would I can hear somebody say, but why would I want all of them to be kicking all the time? Why would I want this consummate love? I have been married. I understand my husband might be a little laid back. I understand that he wants sex every week. I am prepared to do it every 7 days a week, including Sundays. So you have that to where people are kind of comfortable where they are, and then there's no evaluation. There's no, we've been going along for a while. I mean, I've been married for 20 years. He all right? Are you okay? And a lot of times people live with making, adjustments to the situations and not really 100% happy. So I think that's something that we also would want to put in there, that there are people who are satisfied with where they're at. For me, I've been married 28 years, and I still keep things going. They still have date night. In the midst of my busy schedule, we have a daughter now who's 17, and she still wants to be involved in what we're doing. So we'll be able to do that. I still looking for ways to make things more creative. I mean, after all, I may have to do things a lot slower. I might be rich, but I'm still looking to be creative. But some people are pretty much satisfied with, look, we got it 25 years, we're doing okay, but why change it? And she don't want to have sex. I mean, cool. If he doesn't want to go, I go with my friends, things of that nature. But I think it's important that I think we're all saying here that you should try to, with all this love that we talk about, to try to make a difference, try to make the changes. And so that by the time you get into old age, you're quite satisfied with certain things. The passion might wane because now you're older, but because of all the experiences that you had and all the efforts you made to make it the consummate love, you now can sit and watch the TV, you can take a walk, you can go to dinner and still feel as satisfied as if you were all over the house, having sex and, breaking down windows and doors and tables and so on. So, I think we need to put that in here.
I'm with you, though. I'm with you, Bishop Mar, and I'll say that because something you said there, why can't we have it every day? And I'm not talking about just sex, but I think that sometimes we have the mentality that if you have sex every day, something is wrong with you. If you the desire to want to have it be intimate with your spouse every day is wrong. I think that for me that's a challenge, because I think that I'm not saying being able to have sex every day. I'm saying the thought even to want to have sex with your spouse every day is considered something wrong. Well, I probably got this gentleman, but I'm going somewhere with it.
I don't know, Marissa. I don't want to say it's wrong. Let me just say it is strange.
We see if it's something called to even.
No, you take Marissa. No, seriously. Let me say this, sir. But your Marissa is something quite interesting. Yeah, there's some people, honestly, that way you kind of look at the definition that they're okay where they're at. There's some people that they're okay with having sex once a month. Both parties, right?
No, I understand that. I understand that, but I'm saying that.
I'm not saying that saying wrong with having it every day.
Yeah, we think that there's something, and I struggle with it because, especially within the Christian community, we seem to think that if you want to have a desire to have sex with your spouse every day, that something is wrong.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Or it's unhealthy.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I'm not saying that it's a possibility of doing, but the desire, the thought, you can make it seem as if it's foul.
No, the thing with libido is a desire. A desire is different for different people, right? Yeah. The chemicals that are there, that's one of the reasons that we're talking about. There are things that people don't understand. There are chemicals there. For instance, if a female comes to the office, there's high probability you can tell if she has a high sex drive because of the analysis that I do without her saying anything. Because testosterone is one of the things that actually kicks in a high sex drive. And there's some sort of physical things that are shown that says, okay, this person has a high sex drive. So I would ask that question about that person. And likewise with men, and likewise, there's some men with low libidos because of such. So having the desire or the thought is more of some things chemicals and some things a history, and it's okay. It doesn't mean that you need deliverance, you know what I mean? But there's a different thing. Just want to toss that there.
If I can jump in there too. The thing about it, Sinclair was looking at it from the perspective of libido, and that would be, that's something that you have to look at regardless of how old that you are. But when couples are young, it is very typical for young couples who are sexually healthy, physically healthy, and so on, to have sex at times multiple times a day. But I'm sure Bishop Mark and Minister Sinclair would tell you that after some time, especially with men, as the testosterone begins to decline, the drive for sex is not as active as when you were younger. So that can change, where when you're young you have a lot of sex, and then as you get older you kind of don't have sex as frequently. You might have it 3 times a week. For some people it goes down to once a week. For some people, I ain't get there yet, where it might go down to once a month. Some people, some people maybe at that place. But when we look at all of these different factors, sometimes you have to look at the life cycle. Yeah, you have a situation, for example, where you have the life cycle of a product. And the life cycle of a product, you have the birth of the product, you have the maturity of the product, and then you have the decline of the product. Something similar can happen in relationships. Yeah, when relationship starts off, you might be very high in passion, might not be as high in intimacy. And you could have this variation that goes on as you continue in the relationship. But sometimes people come to a place where, as was mentioned, they get comfortable. They get comfortable with where things are at. So the two people then begin to live as friends rather than as husband and wife. It's like, this is an arrangement. We good. We are friends. We continue like that. No, another factor that you can think about is before and after children come along, because a lot of people don't understand how children sometimes can affect the intimacy in the relationship. So you can have a case where you all over each other before you have children. Then the children come along, and all of a sudden, all the effort, all the energy is invested in the children. Then at some point in time, the children leave home. But no, there's not much to the relationship left. It is just two people that sometimes don't even know how to relate to each other anymore, because all the effort, all the energy was invested in the children. So relationships can go through these fluctuations, which is why, again, going back to that external evaluation, sometimes we need something that will help us to look at where our relationship is at. Yeah, because some people, they're only together in name. They're together in name only, but there's nothing really in the relationship. All the energy, all the excitement, all the passion, all the intimacy, pretty much almost everything is gone. So it's a shell of what it used to be. And another factor that you can find happening is, especially when you get men and women going through midlife crisis, this is a time where the man especially can be particularly vulnerable, because all of a sudden they got this pretty young thing that checking him out and so on. And this is the time when he could say, well, I ain't getting nothing from my wife. There's no intimacy, nothing really going on there. And he can become very attracted to somebody on the outside of the marriage, and that can create some problems. So where you're at in the relationship would often determine these different areas of intimacy. So we really have to take a critical look at where we are, keep on evaluating, keep on investing the work that we need to invest to make the marriage what it should be.
As you gentlemen are sharing, and something that Bishop Mark said, that's why I said that, when I started by saying that we tend to have a deficit in our thinking, that intimacy or desire is something is faulty with that thinking. Because when we start there, when we get to the point that Bishop Bynoe just talked to, it seems acceptable, because we've started with that deficit, and then we continue to decline, where we say, we live as roommates, we were content with this. But I also wondered, what about persons who get married later in their life versus those who get married younger, who would have, like all of you guys here have more than 10 years under your belt in marriage. What about persons who have probably just gotten married and they're probably 45 plus, and they only have 2 or 3 years under their belt in terms of marriage? What does that how can they foster that intimacy now, at this stage of their relationship and their life, when they probably would have had different experiences? Who wants to answer that?
I will touch it quickly because we could probably discuss that more detailed in the next session, because with time. But the thing about it is that even that is something you have to analyze, and that's one of the things you have to look at. Where are you at? Because despite a person being 45, there's something at 45 where the intimacy variable is still 3 times a week. right? There are many couples that would have gone through, and even our age, because sometimes we make the assumption, and Bynoe said something earlier, where I might disagree a little bit, and the assumption is because a person is younger that we're going to be like rabbits. There are people that they're younger, trust me, and dang kicking in, and a person may have this expectation, oh, you're big and strong, you're 20 and got all these muscles, and girlfriend coming in like, yeah, we can, I'm a Christian and I've had all this pent up energy, let me go. And then all of a sudden, it's Myrtle the turtle type of thing going on in the bedroom. And she's screaming, right? So the thing about it is, where are you at? Even at 45, there's a difference. Once again, starting talking about history and past and expectations. This is the same issues that we have, even if it's versus 20, 30, 40, 50. Expectations. And many people come in with expectations, and that's one of the reasons that Bishop Mark says he goes through everything. Was slightly bury sleep on? Do you bathe with bar soap or liquid soap? You go through all of those things with 20, 30, 40, 50, because a person may come at 50 and all they want, they both agree. We want this sex thing. We be committed. We do some intimacy. We share with each other like best friends, and they're good. You know what I mean? They probably hit the bedroom once a year, and they're good with us. But you have to know what it is you're coming into that variable with. And that is where I think that situation is totally different. And Bishop Bynoe says something interesting. I go through the biology of things. I think as Christians, we make things outside of biology and think it's going to work. A man loses 1 to 2% of testosterone from age 25. So when you age 50, you're half the dude you are. Sorry. Like it, lump it, you could do whatever. I guess there's some guys that made the testosterone higher and all those things. That's why guys have a tendency to start again weight in their 40s, 50s, and different things. You start to lose muscle mass. It is because there is a biology there going on. The guy is not going to be as erect as he used to be, but start supplementing. Sorry. You know what I mean? But I have this ideology that is just going to happen through osmosis is not. And Bishop Mark says at the time, marriage is hard work. And we have to get away from the ideology that we're going to pray away, we're going to spiritualize it away. It is hard work. And that's where, even if a person is going into a relationship, even at that age, I think that we need to take those variables into consideration.
I
Yeah,
don't
and
know how it goes through.
I think we also have to, sorry about that. We also have to recognize that each person's relationship is unique. And St. Clair, though we may have some similarities, there's other things work for him, work for us, the Bynoe, work for me and my wife. So that's also why it is so important to work at it, because you can make adjustments, you can do things, as you mentioned just now. There are things you can incorporate to make that sexual type. Everything doesn't have to be, just the organs. There are a lot of ways that you can supplement to make your partner feel better, even if you're not able to do the penis vagina thing. You see what I'm saying? Where you can do a lot of other stuff. So it's important that you recognize that each relationship is unique. And somebody mentioned earlier, a lot of people base their relationship on other people's relationship. That's a very dangerous thing to do, right? Because you're bringing different personalities into the sphere of operations. So that's why it's important. And I come back again, communicate. And communicate doesn't mean just talking about what you want. It's also seeking to hear what is important to the other person.
All right. I thought Pastor Bynoe was going to jump in there to add his
No,
his
no,
2 cents.
not really. I was looking at what Sandra Harewood were, what she said. She said not true, and so I wasn't quite sure what she was referring to, from the point of view of the fact that you have people with different libidos, and if you have people with different libidos, then as some people get older, their sex drive will diminish. Now that's not going to apply to everybody, and so that's why we're not generalizing. Some people are going to be very active into a certain age and so on, and their libido will remain very high for whatever reason. Biologically they might be superman, and so they're able to just continue, like, basically Minister Sinclair. But then there are some people that really their libido does decrease with time, and their sex drive is not what it used to be when they were when they were younger. And then sometimes too, you can have where other factors begin to affect your sex drive. So things like busyness, stress, health issues. These are different things. Sometimes things can get boring and you're not motivated because everything, everything is same old, no variety, no kinky nothing type thing. So then people kind of lose interest. So there could be different factors that could impact on the sex drive. So we just need to be aware of some of the different areas that we can continue to improve and make whatever adjustments we need to make.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're having this free conversation and frank conversation and a real conversation, because very often who knew that men go through we know about changes, but we didn't know that there was probably a steady decline towards it. Whoever thought that sometimes persons get married at different ages, and we have this mindset that because you got married at 45 or 50 that your sex drive is completely dead or dying because you're married at 50. And people have some preconceived notions, some lies that we believe and held on to, whereas it may not be just that case. And I think it's important for us to understand that there's nothing wrong with variety in the bedroom. And I think that, and that's, we're going to talk about that when we talk about intimacy too. Variety in terms of being recreational. Your spiritual life can even have that flavor and that excitement to it. Because as you grow, and I heard Bishop Edison say this, that he shared, and he was excited to hear his wife then, be able to share again with others just what he imparted. That is exciting for me. That is spiritual growth that you see being passed from one partner to another. So I think we need to understand that the ignorance that we've held on to, and I use ignorance in terms of lacking knowledge, we need to move away from it. And stop holding on to some myths that have helped to kind of guide us and continues to affect the way that we see relationships. And then, as St. Clair shared earlier, this is where then we find ourselves holding on to some of the non-love experiences that we have, and calling them the best things, even infatuation and empty relationships, and calling them the best love experience that we have had, because we have held on to this ignorance, because we are lacking knowledge of how to better build our love relationships. And I think that it's time that as believers, we want the best in our love relationships. We want to have the best experience in our love relationship. Who wants to leave a relationship saying, I should have, or why didn't I, or maybe I should have, those kind of things. So just let's change our mindset. And for those of you who are married, say, what, I'm going to have to improve here. Let me see how I can improve here. Or maybe call Minister St. Clair, Pastor Bynoe, or Bishop Mark, and say, let's have a conversation with one of these gentlemen and see how we can better improve our 20-year marriage, our 15-year marriage, because we want to go to another level. I want the best consummate love experience that there is to experience. Minister St. Clair Browne, Pastor Edison Bynoe, Bishop Mark, I want to say thanks to all of you for joining us today. To all of you who've been commenting, I hope that you guys have gained knowledge, because I sat here and I gained some knowledge. Good morning to Denroy, Sandra, Melissa. She says age is nothing but the number. That is interesting. I also wanted to talk about that in one of our shows. Does age really make a difference? It is the work we put in that will last. As Denroy says, he knows a woman in her 70s and 80s still very active in the bedroom. So quite interesting. It's good. It's good for us to move away from the ignorance that we've held on to as truths. So thank you very much. Thanks to all of you. Don't forget to check out online Bishop Edison Bynoe and his book. As he shares the 8 nuggets, the 8 truths to making sure that you can have the best successful life ever. So don't forget to check out Bishop Edison Bynoe and his book, available on Amazon right now. We also have Bishop Mark Harewood lessons going on right now. We're heading into CSEC math, CXE math. That's coming up probably in June, I think in June. So let's make sure you have yourself all prepared. Get some help for your students, or maybe you want to take math again. You're taking math, you need that extra help. And of course, the friends over at Healthy Cottage. Until God bless you. Thanks, Minister Sinclair. Thanks, Pastor Bynoe. Thanks, Bishop Mark. Thanks to you, our viewers. Those of you who'll be viewing and taking in again at another day, thank you for joining us. And don't forget to hit that like button, like our live stream. It's important for us to gain to momentum and like and share. We want to share this knowledge and transform lives everywhere. So hit that like button, share our live stream. Today we talked about intimacy. We'll continue to look at the types of love that come from intimacy next week. Part 3. Intimacy in our Teach Me to Love series. God bless you. I'm Marissa Boyce, and have yourself a wonderful Monday. That has been Men on Monday.